Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're just going to look at 3 harmonic surprises that come in a very famous song. Why are we doing this? Lots of people out there writing songs. Some people very happy with the songs they've written, other people kind of getting in touch to say, well, I've written this song, but it's just a bit predictable, a bit plain, uses the same old chords as loads of other people. What can I do that's different? So I'm hoping that just by exploring these 3 little tricks, it will give you some ideas, some fresh ideas for just painting those little twists and turns in a song. And I'm going to do this by looking at 3 things that happen in one very famous song. So All I Want for Christmas Is You is a big Mariah Carey Christmas hit. And it's a song that I'm sure is very familiar to everybody. And so it goes on. Well, to that point in the song, it all sounds like a fairly kind of typical song, doesn't it? So what's going on in the harmony in just 3 places that give us a little surprise, little twist in the tail that maybe adds to the success of this song, maybe just gives it that little bit of a unique stamp. So let's have a look at 3 corners of it. And first of all, I want to have a look at this corner. Now, the song is, in this case, in the key of G major. You'll probably find it in other transpositions somewhere else. That doesn't really matter. It's really about how it relates to the home key. Now, one way in which you can kind of enrich your harmony is to use extended chords. So adding 7th chords, 9th chords, that kind of thing. It kind of warms up the chord a bit, often very effective. Now, when we look at this little corner of the song, we notice that it starts off with these 2 bars, these 2 measures, using a C major 7 chord. Well, if we're in the key of G major, that's chord 4-7. And you see how that works. The same chord works through those bars, harmony notes or chord tones, lower auxiliary or lower neighbor tone, back to a chord tone or a harmony note, passing note or a passing tone, back to a chord tone, a harmony note, onto another chord tone or harmony note. And then there's this little twist, because after that C major 7, we've got this C minor 6 over E flat. Now you hear how that really changes the colour of the song. Now, how do we get to this C minor 6 over E flat? I mean, what's that doing there? Why are we looking, if we're in G major, why are we looking at E flat and B flat in the melody? It seems a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? Well, let's think of it this way. If I'm in the key of G major, chord 2 is an A minor chord. Okay, now if I put a 7th on top of that, so I've got an A minor 7, and then I put that in first inversion, so I've got an A minor 7 over C, or a 2-7 chord in first inversion, and then I take this E natural and I lower it to E flat. Do you see what this is? It becomes a borrowed 2-7 chord. Okay, what do I mean by borrowed? Well, we often borrow chords from the parallel key. So what's the parallel key? If I'm in G major, the parallel key is G minor, or vice versa. If I'm in C major, the parallel key is C minor. You get the idea. It's not the same as the relative key, it's the parallel key. Now in G minor, chord 2 is A, C, E flat. So if I make that a 2-7 in G minor and put it in first inversion, I've got the chord that we've got here. So either you can say it's a chord 2-7 in first inversion with a chromatic alteration, the E's become E flat, or you can say, more correctly really, it's a borrowed 2-7 chord from the parallel minor. But you hear the impact on the music. It just gives you that little bit of colour, doesn't it? So there's the first harmonic trick. Just thinking, what about borrowed chords from the parallel key, especially if I can warm them up by using sevenths and so on. So there's one trick. Now, here's another one, which I think is quite fun in this song. And it's really about the enharmonic use of D sharp and E flat. So just to be clear about enharmonic, what do we mean by the term enharmonic? We mean it sounds the same, but it looks different. In other words, this is D sharp, this is E flat. Sounds exactly the same. It's the same note, but they're called two different things. So one thing that you can go about if you're trying to find another way to kind of vary your harmonic language is to think, well, how can I use a note enharmonically? Let me just get into a bit more detail on this. In the phrase we're about to look at, you can see I've got a B7 chord here. Now, what's a B7 chord? It's B, D sharp, F sharp, A. Okay, so you can't call that E flat because in a B7 it's got to be D sharp. But then not very far away, we've got an E flat and we're revisiting this borrowed 2/7 chord that we were talking about up here. But this time it's written as an E flat. People often write to me about enharmonics. It's kind of like, well, I've called it E flat, I've called it D sharp, whatever. It doesn't really matter what I call it, as long as the note's right. Well, it sort of does, because if it's a B7 chord, you don't have E flat in a B7 chord. It doesn't belong to the tonality, does it? And really, what's a B7 chord? It's a dominant seventh in the key of E, E major or E minor. So in this case, it has a function. So this B7 is the dominant of this E minor chord that follows. But not far away, we're going to use this borrowed 2/7 again from G major, but because that's going to be a chord that's A, C, E flat, G, we've got to use an E flat. But there's a little bit of a play in the melody in this enharmonic use of the same note. Because it has a different harmonic colour in B7 when it's a D sharp than it does in this C minor 6, this 2/7 first inversion chord where you have to have an E flat. You hear the same note twice, but different colour because of the enharmonics. So if we just get a grip on this phrase now, what are we talking about when we hear it? Here's the G major 6. It starts off B7, now we're on to E minor 7. And then you hear the enharmonic, it's E flat this time instead of D sharp. And it's amazing how that gives it a real change of colour. Amazing, isn't it? So there's a kind of lovely twist there, isn't there? Another little harmonic surprise that comes about through enharmonics. So there's another trick you can think about. Here's the third trick that I'm going to talk about in this song. And this is an interesting one where we're going to kind of use a chord that doesn't really function as we would expect it to. So in this example, we've got a G over D chord. So in other words, it's a G major chord with D in the bass. So that's chord 1 in G major in second inversion. Now, the minute you hear second inversion, you're thinking, oh yeah, I think I might know about second inversions. Second inversions are these slightly unstable chords. You know, if I put G major in root position, sounds perfectly all right in its own right. Put it in first inversion, sounds pretty good as well. Put it in second inversion, sounds great, but it sort of wants to do this. As soon as you put a second inversion down, you're kind of wanting to resolve it. And the fourth wants to fall to the third, and the sixth wants to fall to the fifth. So it's less stable. So quite often, if we have a second inversion chord, this is what we're expecting it to do. So in this song, you come across this G/D chord. So we've got G major, chord 1, second inversion, and we think, oh, I know what this song's going to do. It's going to go, and then it's going to resolve to that. That's kind of what you're expecting it to do. So by interrupting that expectation, we throw in another harmonic surprise. Now, what actually happens here is that the song goes on to an E7 chord. It's even cleverer than that actually, because even though the lead sheet notates it as an E7, when you think about these melody notes with this C stuck on the top, it's actually an E13 chord. And what is E13? Well, it's a kind of dominant 13th in the key of A minor. Well, that's handy. If it resolves to the tonic chord in A minor, well, the chord of A minor is chord 2 in G major. So you see how it takes us back to G major, but it gives us a bit of colour, doesn't it? So sometimes we can use these things called secondary dominants, where you go 5/7 to 1 in another key, but the one in this other key is a chord in the original key. So if I go 5/7 to 1 in A minor, or in this case I just extend it further and go 5/13 to 1 in A minor, well, that's a secondary dominant because the A minor chord 1 is chord 2 in G, and I can carry on in G. It's a way of adding a bit of colour. The added surprise here is not just that, it's the fact that we move on to this E13, as it effectively is, after this G major second inversion chord. So it's an unusual resolution. It doesn't quite go where the ear is expecting to go. How do we get away with it in this song? Well, first of all, here's the sound of it. So it's coming at a powerful point in the song, isn't it? That second inversion kind of sets you up for something to happen. And then you get this surprise. And then you go on to the A minor, and then you're back into G again. So you see what's actually going on there. Why it works? Well, a number of things. The bass moves by step. D, E. So because you get that stepwise movement in the bass, that's quite handy. You've also got a G natural in the G/D chord that becomes G sharp in the E7. So G just going up a semitone. So because you get that kind of neighbour movement from D to E, G, G sharp, that helps smooth over the transition. But you see how it gives you a really kind of powerful impact at a point in the song where the words are asking for that. And then you come back to A minor, but it's an extended A minor, it's an A minor. And then we have a cadence in G major. So the point is, a lot of the harmony of this song is sort of perfectly standard harmony, if you like. It's got a lot of extension chords in it, but every now and again you have one of these little harmonic surprises that really lifts the song, that kind of gives you an emotional lift at a point at which the words are kind of demanding it, and just gives it a bit of individual character that sets it apart from a more standard song. So it could be that these are the little tricks that make a good song into a great song and turn it into a massive hit. So this could be your great opportunity to think about these kind of harmonic surprises just to give your song a particular twist. And if, having watched this video, you manage to write a song using some of these little harmonic surprises and it turns into a multi-million-pound hit, just remember who showed you the surprises. 10%, absolutely fine. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that video and that's just giving you some fresh thinking. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, you might want to go to our website, www.mmcourses.co.uk. All sorts of things there. On the homepage, if you click on courses, that will give you access to many courses that we're offering that will really help you to get even better with all this stuff we've been talking about in the video. There's the harmony stuff that comes up in the composition course, comes up in the keyboard harmony course, so you can kind of do this stuff under your fingers, comes up in the advanced theory course. Lots of other things there as well. So if you want to know about oral training, improving being able to write down what you can hear, oral dictation course for you there. Lots of training in oral tests as well. Lots of things that are exam related that might be useful resources. Lots of things that are just there to help you understand what you're doing musically. Analysis courses, for example. So have a root around and see what it is you're looking for that will help you to move on to the next step there. While you're on the homepage, click on Maestros to find out about our fantastic global community. 3 levels of engagement, nothing to do with ability, so nobody should think, oh, I'm not good enough to do this. It's absolutely open to anyone. Level 1 is a kind of support level, and that we greatly appreciate your support in helping us to keep the channel going. But you get perks, you know, emojis, early access to material and so on. If you want to go up to level 2, you get all the level 1 benefits as well, but level 2 gives you extra perks, including access to a monthly live stream where I teach for an hour solidly, and it's a real chance to engage with some of this stuff at a deeper level. And we run a live chat so people can ask questions, request fresh topics and so on. And we try to cover as much ground, and everybody supports each other. You get to know other people around the world on the same kind of journey, which is fantastic. Then if you want to go up to level 3, of course you have all the level 2 and level 1 benefits. You also get discounts on our courses, and you have access to a second monthly live stream that's much more kind of individually tailored. So if you're a composer wanting to hand in your own songs or other bits of music, or if you're a performer and you want to hand in a recording of yourself giving a performance, I'll give you one-to-one feedback during that live stream. We share it with other members of the group. Everybody is deeply respectful of everybody else's work, so you don't have to have any worries about that. We've got some people working at a fairly elementary level, other people working at a much more advanced level. Everybody's welcome. There's no requirement for level. And we all learn from each other. And you'll get the live chat running again. You can ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Other people will make their own observations. So it's a really kind of interactive, supportive group. Anyway, have a look and see what there is that's of interest to you. www.mmcourses.co.uk